Chapter 7 Draupadi. Upaplavya, city in Matsya. Draupadi, daughter of King Drupad of Panchal and common wife of the Pandavs, woke from her usual nightmare, much of which was not different from the incidents in her life. Wiping off the sweat from her tawny skin, she got out of bed and went to the window to get some fresh air. Looking at the moon, she realized that her fate was once more on the stake of the great battle being fought miles away, and so were the lives of her family. Many now and in the future would blame her for this war. But was it really her fault? Was anything? Everything she had faced in this life, no honorable woman did before, and she prayed that none in the future ever has to. Her only fault was that she was an attractive, opinionated woman and was the wife of the 5 Pandav brothers. It all started with a competition set by her family for her marriage. The challenge was to hit a moving bullseye, or rather in this case, a fish-eye by archery, while only looking at the reflection of the target in shiny oil. Whoever could perform this insurmountable feat of archery would be given her hand in marriage, the warrior's way of choosing a worthy husband. Many suitors from around Bharat had assembled for it, including the Kauravas and the Yadavs, but each one who tried failed. She had heard that Karna was a great archer and probably would have succeeded, but as a pureblood, high-status woman, it felt beneath her having to marry anyone of mixed caste. So she refused him before he could try the challenge, and soon no warrior was left who could dare to attempt the challenge. Then a tall, dark and handsome, bearded man from the priest gathering there stepped forth, and for the first time, Draupadi knew what love at first sight felt like. The man completed the challenge in the blink of an eye and took her hand and her heart. The jealous, failed warriors protested against this and teamed up against him. Soon it turned out that the one to marry her was Arjun, the 3rd Pandav brother who had been living in hiding as priests after their Kaurav cousins had tried to burn them. He was there accompanied by his brother, Bhim, and together they brought things under control. Next, Draupadi met the other 3 Pandavs and their mother Kunti, and sympathized with them all. It was clear that each of the 5 brothers were mesmerized by Draupadi's beauty and grace, and Kunti realized that she, being the wife of one of them, might create dissensions between her sons. When the rest of the world is one's enemy, one should hold their friends close. And so she suggested that Draupadi be wed to all 5 of the Pandavs and be shared, like they had shared everything since childhood. Yudhishthira, a follower of rules and honor, was perfect for an honorable woman like Draupadi. Bhim was a man of demonic strength and capable of protecting Draupadi from bodily harm. Arjun was the charming warrior, an achiever with iron resolve, who had stolen Draupadi's heart. Nakul and Sahadev, both were the handsomest prince there could be and a perfect match for Draupadi's looks. So Draupadi did not refuse this offer, and polyandry was neither illegal nor uncommon in ancient Bharat. But without clear rules, such a relationship is bound to become animalistic. So the 5 brothers laid out rules that for 1 year each, they would each stay with Draupadi as her husband, and the rest will be her brothers-in-law in that period. Anyone to break that rule would be punished accordingly. This is how they lived after returning to Kuru kingdom, and then in Indraprastha, when Yudhishthira became king. The only one to break this rule one time was Arjun, when once out of his turn he approached Draupadi, and she too, being already charmed by him, failed to refuse. Yudhishthira was extremely saddened and disappointed in his brother. At this, and out of guilt, Arjun exiled himself from the kingdom for 12 years. After Arjun returned, he brought with him a great architect, coming from a long line of Asura builders. The man designed a wonderful assembly hall for Indraprastha, and then after several battles and setbacks, finally Yudhishthira became an emperor, with several small kingdoms and governors under his command. The phase concluded with a sacrificial ceremony, where all kings from around them, including the Kauravas, were invited. Seeing the prosperity of their empire and the capital city, and also the dazzle of the new assembly hall, they became so envious that they started plotting the Pandavs' downfall. The game of dice was designed for the sole purpose of destroying the Pandavs. In spite all of Duryodhan's effort, the 5 brothers had achieved glory and prosperity, and even taken a wife, who almost every warrior in Bharat had dreamt of having. The Kauravas wanted it all, and Yudhishthira had, in an act of faltering intellect, given all of that on a silver platter. The Pandavs with their family had been called to Hastinapur for the game. The game had commenced, and the women were all in their separate guest quarters when Draupadi heard the news from a messenger. Yudhishthira had lost himself and his 4 brothers on the gamble, and in the end had put Draupadi at stake, which he lost too. The messenger had been sent to let her know that she was now a Kaurav slave and had been ordered to come to the assembly. Draupadi's anger knew no limits. How can her own husband do this? What was the need to continue if so much was already lost? She refused the messenger and sent him back, soon to find the next visitor, Dushasan. Forcing his way in, he came directly into Draupadi's bedchamber and checked her out like a starving wolf watching its prey. Draupadi was on her periods, and for ease of changing was clad in a single piece of cloth, as a sari. "You have been rightly won by us," Dushasan had said. "Come with me. Brother Duryodhan demands your presence." "I am in my season, you idiot," Draupadi had argued. "I cannot go in this state or this attire." Dushasan had cackled and said, "You are our slave. Attire or no attire, you will have to come." In spite of her threats, her protest, her attempts to escape, Dushasan grabbed her by the hair and dragged her towards the game assembly. With her dress loosening, the devilish second Kaurav brought her to that gathering of men. The advisors and ministers present there, the Kaurav brothers, Karna, who she had once refused, all enjoyed her torment or remained reluctant. Hanging their heads low and devoid of their upper garments and jewelry, sat the 5 husbands of hers, having themselves become slaves to their archenemies. King Dhritarashtra, grandsire Bhishma, preceptors Drona and Kripa, all of the elderly men who were supposed to put a stop to this and slap some sense into the sinful youngs, remained silent that day. Seeing Draupadi in that state, the Pandavs were enraged beyond limits, but were not able to take any action, bound by morality of slaves. Bhim was the only one to speak up, and he rebuked the assembly and his own eldest brother for playing the cursed game, and also threatened the Kauravs. But to no avail, except meeting with laughter. Draupadi herself had asked the men there, the just heroes and the lawful, how it can be proper that a person can be staked and won. None of them gave her a proper answer, as the responsibility was shifted to Yudhishthira alone. After all, a just and ethical person like the eldest Pandav must have done nothing but the righteous thing. Surprisingly, one of the Kaurav brothers, Vikarna, tried to speak up for her, but was silenced by Karna. Gleeful at Draupadi's humiliation and wanting more, Karna had said, "This serves her right. A woman who has 5 husbands is nothing but unchaste. It doesn't matter whether such a woman is wearing something or wearing nothing at all. Yank the clothes off her, Dushasan." Dushasan left Draupadi's hair and, to her horror, grabbed the end of her sari. "No," Vidya shouted, and Bhim hissed in anger, while the Pandavs were red-faced from rage and shame. Then began the nightmare of the princess of the powerful Panchals and the queen of the 5 righteous heroes, as her modesty was slowly and painfully robbed off her and her honor trampled to dust. She cried, she prayed, she tried to fight, but Dushasan with clear amusement continued to unravel by force the single piece of cloth separating her ultimate privacy from the leering eyes of men. The Kauravs guffawed, the elders looked away, and the others only silently grinned, while the Pandavs wanted the earth to swallow them whole. Draupadi knew that her days of being a respectable queen and a chaste wife was over. Throughout Bharat, now and thousands of years in the future, when people will talk of her, they will only talk of this, of how she was robbed or her robes laid bare before the eyes of the whole world. As the last bit of the blood-stained cloth left her body, lying curled up at the middle of the hall of men, she expected her ignominy to be everlasting, but a touch of cloth on her whole person gave her a warmth in stark contrast to the cold before. The cackles subsided abruptly and was replaced by frustrated grunts. By the time she was completely disrobed, Vidya, the embodiment of righteousness, had run to her and covered her with his own upper garment. "How dare you, minister?" Duryodhan had protested at this. "You always side against us and with our archenemies." "What is happening here is a sin," Vidya had exclaimed, slightly out of breath, and then he turned at the king and had added, In your assembly, a woman's fate and honor had been put to stake, and you remained silent. With disheveled look, bloodshot eyes, and a crimson face, Draupadi sat at the feet of the Prime Minister, with her knees to her chin and the cloth wrapped tightly around her. Dushasan, holding her former clothes, stared at her like a dog that has just tasted meat. She wanted to kill herself, wanted relief from the shame, but these animals would continue to ravish her memory too. Half of this assembly wanted her view, and today they had it. Whether she lived or she died, that was the truth. What happened after that was a haze to her. Bhim had risen and vowed to rip open Dushasan's chest and drink his blood for what he had dared to do. The Kauravas had argued whether to place their newly acquired slave in their inner chambers. Vidyur had warned Dhritarashtra that the situation has gone out of hand and would trigger a war with Panchal, if not amended. To avoid the political disaster and yet not enrage his sons too much, Dhritarashtra, with the presiding authority of the game, freed the Pandavs and their wife and declared that their kingdom and possessions would remain with the Kauravas for 13 years, respecting the outcome of the game. Duryodhan became king of Indraprastha, while the Pandavs and Draupadi, with nothing more than the clothes on their person, had to leave the kingdom. The 6 of them had spent these years as exiles in the forest, when the Pandavs went through severe penances in hope of overcoming their fate. But if one thinks that this was enough suffering for Draupadi, they would be grossly wrong. While in forest, they were constantly persecuted by the Kauravas, and Draupadi was even abducted by the Kauravas' brother-in-law Jaydrath. After that, the Pandavs decided to go into hiding and chose different roles in the kingdom of Matsya under the rule of King Virat. There too, she was harassed by the Virat's brother-in-law and commander of army, who was later dealt with by Bhim. It was like she had become a toy for men. This plight of theirs would have never occurred had Krishna been with them at the time of the game. Draupadi had first met that distant relative of the Pandavs on the day of her wedding with Arjun. That Yadav had since then been a constant support to her 5 deprived husbands with all his wisdom and suggestions. Krishna had literally made her the empress, and within a day, she has fallen to the standard of slaves. When Emperor Yudhishthira was being destroyed on a board, Krishna had been away, defending his own territory against foreign invasion. When he was later informed of what had occurred, he was fuming with rage greater than Bhim's. Now, after 13 years had passed, when Yudhishthira demanded his kingdom back, Duryodhan refused, and that led to the war. Krishna, Draupadi's own family, King Virat who had sheltered them, and her husband's other allies all stood with them, supporting Yudhishthira's claim on the throne. They now fight for establishment of righteousness and justice. Her 5 sons fight for avenging the dishonor of their parents. Her husbands fight to exact their vengeance, a vengeance long due. Amidst all this, was she really the only one responsible for this war? It was true that Draupadi wanted the deaths of those who disgraced her, but had Duryodhan given back Yudhishthira his kingdom, he was still ready to choose peace. So what was the true intent of this war, her honor or the king's?
To be continued. Stay tuned for the next chapter.